Is this the year that you should start investing your HSA, treating it like a health savings account for your financial future instead of a health spending account for the present day medical expenses? If so, if this is the year, I've got 3 things you need to do. That and more coming up. My name is Mike Bernard. I'm the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Korhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. You ever hear a good idea, but you needed to hear it a few times, or kind of you had to think about it for a while before you implemented it? I don't know about you, but the HSA and investing your HSA, I knew immediately as that strategy, as we started using it with clients, oh, this makes a ton of sense. And yet, both for me, as well as a lot of clients that we work with, they need to hear it a couple of times before they warm up to the idea. Took them a couple of years before they said, no, yeah, this does make sense. Let's adjust and pivot. And sometimes it's just overcoming some of the mental blocks, because the HSA traditionally, or at least from the beginning, a lot of people kind of put it in a box like, hey, it serves this function in my financial life, not this higher potential. But also there's some structural things that you need to do if you're going to pivot and shift your HSA into that investing HSA as opposed to just a spending HSA. And here's why you'd want to do so, right? The HSA offers, it's the only tax vehicle out there, tax shelter, that offers the trifecta of tax benefits: tax-free contributions in, tax-sheltered growth, and then tax-free withdrawals for qualified medical expenses. It's truly unique in that way, better than the Roth, better than your 401k, and yet many people are still treating it like a flexible spending account, or really a health spending account, where they save up or contribute as much as they think they're going to expend on medical expenses that year. It doesn't really give that money any time to grow, and it's not really earning any interest or anything like that. So yeah, the growth is tax sheltered, but they're not getting any benefit on that. And then they just withdraw the money to pay for those medical expenses as they come up. That's good, but great would be contributing as much as possible, as much as can fit within your financial life, into your HSA to maximize that tax deduction, positioning your HSA for long-term growth so that you actually achieve that second benefit, that second attribute of tax-sheltered and tax-free growth. And then out there in the future, as you have more medical expenses throughout your life, you're able to withdraw even more out of your HSA tax-free. If the first option was good, that's great. So if you're warming up to that idea and think, man, maybe this is the year to start investing my HSA, treat it like a true health savings account for a versatile instrument for your financial picture, financial plan, as opposed to just a short-term health spending account. Here's what you need to do. First, you've got to come up with a strategy to cover your short-term medical expenses as they come up, right? Oftentimes when people hear about this idea of treating their HSA as a long-term vehicle and invest in it, they just think, well, all right, well, I hope I don't get sick. But no, in order to invest your HSA, it's turning that from a short-term investment short-term asset, short-term vehicle into a long-term vehicle. And listen, medical expenses are going to come up. You're going to get sick. The kids will break an arm. There's going to be, dental expenses and vision expenses, that sort of thing. So you need to have a plan, a cash flow plan for covering those expenses out of pocket, not from your HSA. To us, the go-to is the 3 bank account system, and looking at your entire financial operating system or your cash flow operating system to say, all right, well, how do I save up for known non-monthly expenses? I know that we're going to go to the dentist a couple times a year. I'm sure one of the kids is going to break an arm or something like that. I'm sure, me and one of the kids will need new contacts or glasses or some eye exams throughout the year. And therefore, when those expenses come up, how do we cover them? If the plan used to be the HSA, but instead we're going to invest that HSA and not touch it along the way, you've got to come up with a different plan to cover those out-of-pocket expenses. So that's that bucket number 2. Bucket number 1 is your checking account, your immediate spending. That's where you have a plan for all of the regular monthly expenses. But bucket number 2 is where you're setting aside money for all of the known non-monthly expenses. Things like vacations, things like car repairs, things like car replacement, but also things like medical expenses, out-of-pocket medical. And that's where you would say, well, yeah, we tend to spend a couple grand a year on medical expenses. Okay, couple grand divided by 12 or divided by 24, depending on if you want it to come out every single paycheck. And you set that money aside into your delayed spending account. And then when those medical expenses inevitably come up, instead of going to your HSA and pulling dollars out there, keep those dollars invested and pull the dollars instead out of this separate savings account, this delayed spending account. That allows you to cover those short-term medical expenses as they pop up and keep your HSA intact, invested for the long term for future growth. That's step number one, absolutely paramount. Step number two is the common one. That's the obvious one, and that is pick an appropriate diversified investment strategy for your HSA. Sometimes this is going to mean you've got to move your HSA from maybe the where it's held currently over to somewhere like Fidelity or a different type of institution that allows you to invest it. Sometimes your HSA, if it's just set up through your company, the only option is to just leave it in the savings account. And really step number two is positioning your HSA so that it can be invested, and then picking an appropriate investment mix. Whether that is, medium risk or high risk, whatever your situation is, work with your certified financial planner on that. And then finally, step number three is to set up a plan to track your receipts. The big idea with this investing HSA is that, yes, you're paying for your near-term medical expenses out of pocket instead of your HSA, but then out there in the future, once you give your HSA enough time to grow and build over time, you can then withdraw dollars from your HSA and reimburse yourself for the medical expenses you incurred along the way. But you'll do so with a larger HSA because you've allowed it more time to grow and earn. So having a mechanism to track those receipts or those medical expenses so that you know what you can reimburse yourself from your HSA out there in the future. For me, that's just an electronic drive. Think of like a Google Drive where honestly we snap a screenshot or take a picture of every single receipt, every single medical expense that we pay out of pocket. We capture there in that cloud and then have a spreadsheet. I've seen this with clients where they then every so often take those receipts and enter it in a spreadsheet so it just automatically adds up. And before you know it, over a few years, contributing the maximum to your HSA, you'll see that along with some growth over a period of time, you'll see that account grow to 5 figures, even sometimes 6 figures. And then you'll have that spreadsheet where you've tracked your expenses where, yeah, you can draw out $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 over a decade or so, where you can pull that out of your HSA, reimbursing yourself tax-free, and still have a significant account to help cover medical expenses in the future and in retirement. So is this the year for you to start investing your HSA? Work with your certified financial planner, get these 3 conditions in place, and make sure it's an appropriate strategy for you. If you don't have a CFP on your team, you can contact one on my team. Find us online, Korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with K, wisemoneyshow.com. You can find us there as well, or send us an email, info@korhorn.com. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.